In a couple earlier videos, I showed how to do serial communication with an Arduino and a computer running Java. And in those videos, I showed how to do one-way communication where you have data from an Arduino going to the computer. And of course, a really common thing to do would be the opposite, send data from your computer to the Arduino. In this video, I'm going to cover how to do that. I've got an Arduino Uno, a 16x2 character LCD, potentiometer for setting the contrast on that LCD, and then a bunch of jumper wires for wiring it all up. And in this video I'm going to show how to make a really simple clock. And so you don't need a computer to make a clock, of course. You can buy shields that have what's called a real-time clock, an RTC. And that'll basically it'll basically keep track of time, and it also has either a battery backup or a supercapacitor, so that it still has power and can keep counting even when your Arduino is unplugged. But that's added cost and added complexity, and a lot of times you'll have your Arduino plugged into a computer anyway. So I'll show you how to send the date and time from your computer to the Arduino. And of course, this is a very simple kind of first steps type video. You can obviously send much more useful data to the Arduino, have it control actuators or sensors, lights, displays, that kind of thing. But we'll see how to get it working, and from there you can go on and make things as complex as you want. So I'm sure you're eager to see the end result. Let's take a look at what we're working toward. Alright, here we have the end result. We have an Arduino wired up with a character LCD, and it is showing the current time and the current date, and it's getting that information from the computer. So let's go ahead and take a look at how we can actually achieve this. Alright, so you saw the functional clock that shows the current date and time updated on the LCD. Let's actually make that happen. So we're going to need to wire this up. Let's figure that out real quick. So I got the LCD from SparkFun, and they offer this LCD in their SparkFun Inventors Kit, the SIK. And the only reason why I'm mentioning that is because they have a really nice PDF that shows you how to wire it up. So if you search for SparkFun 16x2 SIK, and then the first link will be to the product page. And then when you get to the product page, just click on the first document link, Product Guide. Alright, so let's zoom in. And right here is where we want to be looking. So we need to wire it up on the breadboard. And in case you're wondering, the pinout is like that. So VSS is right here, and then ground, or VSS, then 5 volt, then contrast, and so on. Alright, so there we have it all wired up, and let's plug it in and see if it works. Alright, so hopefully it powered up, and the backlight's on and everything. One thing you might need to do is your contrast potentiometer, which I have here. You may need to adjust. If your screen isn't readable like that, you might need to adjust it. And I think I just popped it out of place. There we go. Alright, so let's make sure the LCD actually works. Alright, so if you bring up the Arduino IDE, if you go to File, Examples, and liquid crystal, hello world. And if you wired it up like I did following that PDF, it will be pretty much ready to go. So let's go ahead and compile and upload it to the Arduino. And there we have it. So if it worked, if you had your wiring all correct, you'll see hello world and then a counter at the bottom. If it isn't working, just double check your connections, make sure you don't have any loose jumper wires or have them plugged in the wrong spot. Let's now actually do the interesting part. Let's make it talk to the computer, so we can get data off the computer and on this LCD. Let's go ahead and create a new sketch. Close out of the old ones. Alright, so when we're using the liquid crystal library, you need to import it or bring it into your code base. Pound include liquid crystal.h. We also need to create a liquid crystal object to represent the LCD. And we need to tell it the pin numbers. Alright, and for setup, we need to set up the LCD and set up the serial port. My LCD is a 16:2 LCD, which means it has 16 characters horizontally and 2 rows. That's how the majority of them are. Set up the serial port like in the older video, 9600 baud. And we're also going to set the serial port timeout. And we're going to set that to 50 milliseconds. If you haven't seen my earlier videos, be sure to check them out. I'll put a link to them in the description below. But I show how to install all the software that we're going to need, so if you haven't seen those, you're going to be kind of lost in a little bit. Okay, so down in the loop, the area where we're going to be doing most of the work, we're going to get the string of text from the computer. And we want to split that up into 2 lines because the LCD has 2 rows, and we want to have it automatically kind of wrap our text onto the second row if we end up having enough text. And we're going to use a method called substring, and that will let you pull out part of a string. So the first one, we want to get the first 16 characters. And then the second line will be our next 16 characters. Now what we need to do is, if we ended up getting a line of text, we want to erase the old text. If you don't, you may end up having that old text remaining if you don't write over it. So we need to check if we got any text. So if the length of the text we got from the serial port is greater than 0, we want to position the cursor on the top left. want to print a bunch of spaces, a bunch of empty characters on top to erase whatever was there. We need 16. And we want to repeat this for the second row, or second line if you want to call it that. And so with cursor you have an X and a Y. X is going to be your position on the current line, and Y is going to be the line. So line 0 is the first one, line 1 is the second line. Alright, so we've got our text from the serial port. If we actually got any text from the serial port, we went ahead and erased any characters that were already on the LCD. And now we need to actually draw the new text on the LCD. Let's go ahead and copy and paste these. Now we're going to print the actual text. Alright, that is actually the total, the entire firmware for the Arduino. Really not that complex. Let's go ahead and build and upload it. Go ahead and save it. Alright, so it has uploaded to the Arduino, and we can see here that we have nothing on the screen because it has not received anything. If we click on the serial monitor icon in the Arduino IDE, if we now type text here, it will show up on the display. And there you have it. So now we need to write our Java program that will effectively do the same thing, but let us do it in a program, which is obviously much more useful. So we'll close out of the Arduino IDE and open up Eclipse. Alright, so this is the project we did in our earlier video on the Arduino. And this one was for graphing sensor data from the Arduino. And we're going to modify this to send data to the Arduino. And let's go ahead and start doing that. Again, if you haven't seen my older videos, check them out. You're going to be kind of confused if you haven't. And also this code is listed in the earlier video, so you can get it there. And I'll put a link to the new code also in the video description. Well, we're no longer graphing sensor data. Let's rename this. And I'm going to go ahead and call it, how about LCD clock? And you'll get a warning because we're going to effectively rename the file, which is fine. Alright, we need to get rid of the stuff that we're no longer using from the earlier project. We don't need that variable. We don't need our line graph. And let's see, we don't need to empty our graph. Don't need that. Don't really need that. Alright, so let's start modifying things. We're going to change the title of the window. I'm going to call that Arduino LCD clock. For the size, we don't need it to be as big as before. Let's do 400 by 75. This is all good. Okay, so let's here we are at the connect button action listener, and when we click on the connect button, we're going to try and open the port, and if we're able to, we're going to change the button to disconnect, and we're going to disable the serial port lists. And here's where we actually add our new code. So if we were able to open the port, if this returned true, we're going to change the text on the connect button to disconnect. We're going to disable the serial port lists, and we need to create a new thread that will send data. So in Java you have a thread object. Create that. And before we forget, we want to make sure that we start the thread. Alright. So when you have a thread object, you need to define the run method. And in that method is where we're going to do all of our work. And so at this point, we have connected to the serial port. And an important thing you need to do, and if you forget it will cause problems, is you need to wait before you send anything to the serial port. On the Arduino, they have it set up so that way when you connect to the serial port, the microcontroller will reset. And they do that because you have to program it through the serial port. So it will default to resetting. So we need to wait. I'm going to wait 100 milliseconds, 1/10 of a second. And let's do that. So you do thread.sleep and then the number of milliseconds, which is 100. You're going to get a warning because it could throw an exception. We're going to put it in a try-catch block. I'm going to make it really compact because I'm not going to do anything with the exception. So there it is on one line. Okay, so we've connected. We've waited 1/10 of a second. And now we need to actually send the data to it. So the easy way to send text over a serial port in Java is with a print writer. Let's go ahead and create that object. And we're going to give it the output stream of our serial port. So chosen port dot get output stream. We need to import the print writer class. Okay, so now we have a way to send text to the serial port. Let's enter an infinite loop, and in that loop we will send the current date and time. Okay, so our way to write to the serial port is with our output object. So we're going to call output dot print. Dot print. And because we're going to send the current date and time, there is a really neat object in Java called a simple date format object. Now we need to import that class. and you pass it a string that is formatted in the way that you want to see the date or time. And I'm going to explain this in a minute, but just hang on until we get there. Okay, so we have our format string. Basically, the lowercase h would signify hour, lowercase m is month, lowercase s is second. A will put either AM or PM. Capital M is month. You can do 2 capital M's, which will give you the month as a number, or you can do more than 2 and it will print out up to that many characters of the month name. So like instead of 06, it would print out June. And then lowercase d is the day, and lowercase y would be the year. So that created a simple date format object, but it does not know what to format. We need to have it format the current time. So if you call the .format method, and we need to give it the current date and time. You do that by giving it a date object. We need to import the date object. And there we have it. So we're getting the current date and time. We're going to format it, and we're going to format it like this. Now before we get too far along, let's take a look at that format string and how you can customize it. So if you search for simple date format, the first link should be on Oracle's documentation website. And if you scroll down, there's a bunch of examples right here. You can kind of see how it works. And so you can get like the day name with a capital E, or you can get just the name of the month in 3 characters with 3 capital M's to give you just the first 3 characters of the month. And you got, time zone information, all that stuff. It's really quite powerful. The full list of special characters is right here. Anyway, so now we've printed out the text, but we actually haven't sent it, surprisingly enough. What you need to do is you need to call the flush method. And that will actually send the data out the serial port. So when you call print, it'll put it in a buffer. And that's just to be more efficient, because you don't always need to immediately print it out. But in our case, we want to. So we're going to call flush, and that will actually send the data out the serial port. Now we don't need to constantly do this one after another after another. You could wait, and do it once a second. I'm going to go ahead and do it 10 times a second just to keep it from having kind of little glitches. If you have it do it once per second, if you're right on the threshold of a second number changing, you can have it where it looks like it doesn't change, or it'll change by 2 seconds. So I'm just going to go a little bit faster. So we're going to wait, and I'll just have it wait 100 milliseconds. And that's pretty much all we really need to do. So if we click on the play button to start the program, we see our program is really small, and that's okay, that's all we need. Pick the COM port for your Arduino, and if you click connect, you'll see that it sent the date and time. Now I actually forgot to put in, I missed 1 space. So we needed, in this case, 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces. I think I only put in 3. Let's go back to that. Put 1 more space there. Alright, let's try again. Alright, so if we connect again, there we go. So you can see that we have the the hour, minute, second, either AM or PM. We have the month printed as a name, not a number, and then we have the day and the year. And so this is a fairly simple project, but you can see that you can kind of get an idea for how things can be expanded from here. You can obviously send much more complex data. You could, create a graphical user interface that will let you control, a motor or a valve or a light. And you can create things as complex as you want. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, please leave them down below. If you have any comments, good or bad, please leave them down below. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. And I hope you enjoyed it. Good luck.